Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room. It is Michelle Houghton here one more time. I am going to be coloring a stamp by Wild Rose Studio today. This is a little set of snowmen. It's called Snowman, imagine that. And so we're going to be looking at getting those guys white or fading to white. So the actual snow portion should go fairly quickly. And then I'll do all the hats and scarves and mittens and stuff in just some fun colors. So I did have a request to do a few more backgrounds. So I'll do a little bit of sky, again, probably fading into white to keep it really simple. And I think that'll get us going. I'm really keeping it pretty easy today. I'm not doing anything fancy. If I come along something that is good information to know, I'll make sure to point it out as I fast forward and give you guys all that information on my coloring and color choices. All right, I'll zoom in and get us set to go. So I'm starting with the colorless blender because all these little snow people are going to be faded to white because I want them to look like snow people made out of snow. BV20 is going to be the lightest of my shading. I'm not going to go super dark. And then I go back with my colorless blender. Now this is, a lot of times I'll color bigger areas. BV23 for the deepest shadows, blending with BV20, and then the colorless blender again. Because I'm fading to white, I want to work fairly quickly. And so I decided after doing that first one that I needed to just finish him first and then go on to the next one. Same series, colorless blender, BV20, little colorless blender to fade that to white, and then a tiny bit of BV23 is going to add just that outer edge. Now hopefully you can already see where my light source is. Should be pretty distinct right from the get-go. It's coming in from the left-hand side. That's why that darkest shadow is over on the right bottom corner. Now I am going to try to do both of these snowmen next. BV20, I've already got the colorless blender on there. So the biggest highlight is in that upper left-hand corner. Some shading around their faces and their bodies, kind of soft spheres, obviously not perfect circle. Back to colorless blender, but it gives that round shape. And then the BV23 is next, hitting that bottom right corner on both the face and the body. Smoothing that out with BV20. And of course, the colorless blender. Hitting that again. One of my favorite things about the BV20 is how it kind of lightens into a blue. And so that's part of the reason I decided to do these guys with that. I'm adding dots for the snow underneath the snow people. And I know that the horizon line will be up above the ground line a little bit. So I've added some dots kind of lifting up above that horizon line or the snow line at the bottom. G40 is what the kind of mom snowman, snow person, scarf and hat are going to be done with. And then G43 and G46 for midtone and shadow. Back to G43 for some blending. Trying to add those folds in a little bit. And G40 for the highlight to blend back in there and soften those. B41 is going to go on the littlest snow person. And B16 is actually going to be the color I do the shading with. Now these are small areas, so I'm only going to do the two. B41 again to smooth that out a little bit. And it takes a little work. B41 to B16 is actually a pretty decent jump. Remember, we're looking at those last numbers. So from a 1 to a 6 is a pretty big jump. B60 on the other kind of snow child. And B63 for the shading. Going to stay kind of a light lavender looking, even though that's a B or a blue. B60 to smooth that out, scarf, mittens, and hat. And then I am giving each of their noses just a touch of Y23 and YR14. That's going to give them each a carrot nose, and I smooth that out with a Y23. I'm kind of debating on the father at this point. I'm not sure what colors to do for him. So I do an R24 on the scarf. Notice I'm not going to hit all the way to the edges. Remember, those reds are going to bleed a little bit more. So you're going to see some white. I haven't filled it in. And then R27 is going to be the darker shade I'm using on this one. This is where it gets filled in. I've got the berries, the hat band, and the scarf. R24 to smooth that out. And then I decide it's still a little too dark. So I go back with an R22 to push that highlight just a touch, lighten it up. G43 and a G46 on the holly leaves on his hat. And then BV20 is going to add some dots on all the fur areas. All the little hats have that fur trim. So I'm adding some dots for texture on that fur. B41 for the Christmas present and B45 for the shading on that one. Just blending it back with B41. Oops, I've got an R27 and I'll do some quick editing. I think I missed the number on that one. B45 and R22 to finish those up. BV20 on and BV23 on the hat and BV25 to do some shading and a BV29 or 29 to do the darkest areas on his hat. So it's a deep blue violet, which actually works pretty well with this particular snow family. B25 to do some blending and BV23 and colorless blender to lighten up those highlights just a touch. Then I'm going to attack the sky, and I'm going to start with a BG000, and I'm adding in kind of my ground line on this side. Now I forget to do it on the other side, so I am going to make a mistake here pretty quickly. This is a super light color, that BG000. So I didn't start with my colorless blender, which is what I usually do. Now I go back with the colorless blender and soften that edge. When you have a super light color, you can start with your color and then fade that using the colorless blender. A lot of times I will start with the colorless blender. Now notice I'm working my way around, but I have completely forgotten that I want to stop that above the ground line. So I'm just going to keep going around, and I get my colorless blender back out and fade that, and I work all the way down to the ground. And that's much further than I wanted to go. I'm going to add the colorless blender to fade it out, and then I also start pushing back that color where I want it to kind of disappear entirely. So I put a piece of paper towel underneath, that's an absorbent surface, and I'm going to kind of push my ink through to the back of the paper. So I'm loading that with colorless blender. Now it is going to push a little bit onto the snowman, so I have to kind of watch that and push that back a little bit. Remember, it's not an eraser, it's a pusher. So I'm pushing it through, and I clean up that edge, and I can come back and do that again if I need to, but this is gonna, my guess is you won't be able to see it by the time I'm done. So one little snowman scene. Obviously I forgot about the horizon line on this side. You saw me doing some correcting there. I will go back and hit that area one more time. The other solution is to add just a touch of that light blue over here so it's looking even more purposeful. So I will do one or the other to finish this image up. But very fun little snowman family, snow girl, snow woman, and that's it. I hope you have a very happy, colorful week and get some time to play with your Copic markers. Thanks for joining me.